Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, I've been feeling a bit nostalgic lately and talking about things that happened to me and some of my experiences. And one of the things I forgot to talk about was TV. I grew up watching TV, of course. When you live in a small town, you don't play sports, there's not a lot to do, especially in the evenings in winter in Tasmania. So a lot of the times the family would just watch TV. And in some ways, it was a good thing and a bad thing that we only had really one commercial station. There was the ABC and Tas TV, which then became Southern Cross. And that's it. We had one commercial station. And the interesting thing about that was it did kind of unify everyone. Everyone watched the same thing. So whenever there was a big event, whenever there was some big TV event or something happened on a show, everybody watched it. And the next day everyone could talk about it because we all watched the same thing. We had the same communal experience. So there was that, which is something that's lost now because everyone's watching their own screens, their own channels, their own, everything, and it's not a communal experience anymore unless you kind of get a bunch of people who just happen to be watching the same things that are trending at the same time, or something that sort of drops big like Stranger Things or Wednesday or something. For the most part, it's people watching their own things, and that's good for individualism and freedom and having more availability of things. But there's something lost about everyone watching and sharing the same thing together, and everyone sitting down together and watching the same thing together. And I was also kind of lucky because the network, I don't think they had a lot of money, so they didn't always have all the new shows, because I think they couldn't afford them. They'd buy them later when they're in syndication or when they're older or something. So we got a lot of syndicated shows, and I grew up with a lot of shows from the 60s and the 70s, and I didn't have any idea that they were old. I'd watch I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and Land of the Giants and Time Tunnel, Lost in Space, of course the original Star Trek, and all those sort of shows, and the 70s shows like Mary Tyler Moore and Good Times, and drawing a blank on some of them. I'm seeing pictures in my head, but I'm not getting names. But yeah, I watched a lot of these shows, and I didn't realise they were older shows. And I'm just really lucky because a lot of these shows which I would have missed, I saw and I lived with them. And these were the same shows that my brothers and sisters who were older watched when they were younger. So I still sort of understood their references in that because we sort of watched the same things. We sort of grew up watching the same shows. Even the same cartoons. We had a lot of the older cartoons, the Flintstones, stuff like that. I grew up with all that. And I'm really glad because there are a lot of people who are just oblivious. They don't know about any of these old shows. They just don't know about them, and they've missed out because I've seen all the new shows and I've seen all the old shows. I've seen everything. I have this range of media from like the late 50s really, and 60s. I used to watch Moonlighting, the Beverly Hillbillies when I was a kid. And a lot of old movies as well were shown on TV because they were cheap to put on TV. And, that's why they're on there, but they're actually great as well. So you got to enjoy them. And it was sort of like this happy accident. And eventually they changed stations, and we got two stations, but we couldn't get one of them. So half the shows we had went to another station, which we couldn't get in our area. It was called WIN. So, and that included Star Trek: The Next Generation and The Last Few Years of Married Children and a bunch of shows I used to watch and love, and they just went. I lost them. I didn't see them again till I had cable. Now, cable's the other thing I want to talk about because cable in the 90s was amazing. After I moved out of home, the first place I lived in briefly, I had cable. I had Foxtel, and it was amazing because I grew up sort of always feeling because the other on the mainland in Victoria, Sydney, the rest of Australia, because I lived in Georgetown, Tasmania, they had multiple stations. They had 7, 9, 10, ABC, SBS. They had like 3 commercial channels and kind of like America, and 2 non-commercial channels. And you still felt deprived, like you didn't see the shows you wanted, or once you saw something, you never saw it again. So you did really appreciate things. You didn't miss a show because you would not see it ever again as far as you knew. No one knew DVD was going to happen. No one really even got the video for sell-through and retail was going to really happen like it did. But cable was amazing because all the shows I'd missed that I'd always wanted to see or hadn't seen the first 5 years and just seen the end of the show or something, I got to watch them. I got to see Murder, She Wrote, I got to see Unsolved Mysteries again, I got to see Star Trek again, I got to catch all the episodes of Star Trek. They used to show Star Trek Saturday evenings, the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, in a block of 4 hours from 7 or 8:30 to like 10:30, 11:30 every Saturday. It was great. So I'm glad I had cable, MTV, when they actually had music on it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because not a lot of people young people had that experience of communal viewing and having be deprived of something so much that you actually appreciate it rather than being grown up in this just excess where you just take everything for granted and don't appreciate anything, which is what I feel like it's like today.